Oh, the mistake, and McBreen's clean through on goal here to win it. What a miss from Daniel McBreen.
Fucking dog shit.
Bonjour tout le monde et bienvenue à A-League Off Air, notre podcast hebdomadaire où on parle de toutes les choses qui se passent sur le terrain dans l'Australie et Nouvelle-Zélande. I'm speaking French, you fuckers, because we had some interesting news over the weekend, which doesn't directly concern Australia and the A-League, but may yet, because a couple of months ago we heard that this massive streaming company called DAZN had just purchased Fox Sports in Australia and was going to be a big player. And because they showed the Women's Champions League and Serie A and had just bought the French domestic rights to Ligue 1, that this was going to be a new player in the market. Well, when that first installment was due in France last week, they refused to pay it. DAZN, having only offered half what the league wanted in the first place to show the rights in France, refusing to pay because they said piracy is too important in the world now. We don't have enough subscribers. Everyone's watching on YouTube, and no one's paying us to watch. So that rights deal we signed with you, we don't think we're going to pay it. So now the LFP, the French league, are suing DAZN for the first installment of 57 million euros, which didn't arrive, of the 400 million per season that they've agreed. So let's see where all that leads, shall we, ladies and gentlemen? One thing we can be sure of, as Grace Gill said, without any irony whatsoever, on the opening match of the weekend, when she picked up off Simon Hill's eloquent introduction, Grace said, "Well, thank you, Simon. And it's Valentine's Day. Where else would you rather be than right here at Amy Park?" Indeed, Grace.
Yes, I did have a chuckle at that one.
It was a superb moment. Exactly. And, with that eloquent introduction, Grace, I'll introduce you, Macca. Where else would you fucking rather be than right here on a Monday morning with myself and our special guest?
No fucking where else, to be honest, mate. This is the joy of my week, the best hour and 15 to 20 minutes or 30 minutes of my whole week that I can't wait to look forward to. And as two old men can sit here and fucking talk shit. And for some reason, all you fuckers out there, listen. What the fuck is going on in your lives?
Exactly. They think, sometimes I think we're sad, but what about the fuckers listening to this shit?
That's exactly.
I agree.
Like, fuck. Go and get a fucking hobby. Paint the wall and fucking watch it dry or something. It's got to be more entertaining than this.
Watch that kettle boil, you motherfuckers. But they probably are with the headphones in.
Well,
that's the whole point.
That's it.
Anyway, we do need to get Grace back on the podcast. But Grace is very mild-mannered and doesn't swear enough probably for the podcast, which is why we invited our guest on this week.
Why am I on?
You better bring some of that Kiwi fucking language, bro.
I haven't got a T-shirt. I've hanging off the back of that. Oh, my God. Yeah. No, I'll see you boys later. Thanks for having me.
No, we need you on, Jacob, because we had two more stunning examples of New Zealand football and everything they've brought to the league this weekend.
Yeah.
I don't know whether to laugh or cry when I see that Auckland are fucking 5 points clear at the top of the standings. But
You're welcome. You're welcome, mate.
I will say just one more thing on the weekend, or maybe I'll save it for. Oh no, we'll talk about it when we're in the game, in MacArthur's game, and the superb pathos and clear delivery of Ali Reza Faghani's VAR judgment call, where everyone was. Oh no, it was the day before. It was Western Sydney. That was it.
Yeah,
Western Sydney
yesterday.
MacArthur. Yeah, fuck. Okay. It's all a blur. It's all a blur. And they have we know that there's a VAR on the goal call and that it must be tight because we've been standing around waiting for 3 minutes. And then Ali Reza does the thing. We know something big's coming. And he just goes, la-da-da, la-da-da, la-da-da-da-da, goal. It's like, no, Ali Reza, it's goal.
Yeah.
Like,
fuck.
And the verdict is goal.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
I actually thought he said
All the players were standing around. They didn't know what was going on.
That's no goal because he's so downbeat. Oh, yeah, no
It was
goal.
like Macca's introduction to the pod. Mate. Goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, let's get going because we've got a lot to talk about. We are going to start with the only place you'd want to be on Valentine's Day, of course, Amy Park, Melbourne Victory versus Wellington Phoenix. And Spooners, we're going to have to come to you first because there's only one thing better than Macca and me taking the piss out of Wellington Phoenix without any right of reply from anyone that's ever been anywhere near Wellington. And that's by having you here for us to see
Aucklander.
how you justify this shit.
Yeah.
The Aucklander. Yeah, well, hopefully you'll give us even, some more daggers in there because this is, I mean, they are a side that are
Trying to be
hard
nice.
to watch.
Don't be nice. You weren't nice 10 minutes ago when you were talking about it.
Okay, well, let's start. No, let's start by way of introduction. And sometimes we do wonder what fucking sport we're watching here. For the second week in a row, they've gone the midfield bomb at kickoff. There was no Nagasawa, so we know it wasn't Nagasawa just making this shit up on the spot by himself. Because this time, who was it? Paolo Retre? Someone sent up a fucking midfield bomb at kickoff to start the game.
Mixing it up.
What are we watching here, Jacob? What is going on?
It was tackle number 5, mate.
Mate.
You've got to get rid of the ball. I don't know what you're complaining about, mate. Look, I actually love that. I think it's great because so often we start a game, we've got tiki-taka, you kind of plug and play these robots into, as Macca was saying, this possession-based football where the process dominates. There's no decision-making. There's no thought going into it. Arguably, there's not much thought going into this tactic either, but at least it gives us something to talk about. Look, I think it speaks to the fact that currently they've got 2 centre-backs playing in their left wing and right wing role. So you put this up, you hit the big bodies, and you make it messy. But I think, and Mac is not going to like this, and that's fine, and he can keep cracking on and get in the Phoenix.
Macca doesn't like anything.
No.
I think what we're seeing from this Phoenix side is they've got their way through a very, very challenging period where they haven't had any senior players. They've introduced Tim Payne back into the starting 11. Alex Rufer comes on in the 70-minute mark, and they look a completely different side.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, Chiefy has some central gravity for everything to orbit around. Up until that point, I don't think there's any other way than to describe this as survival. And that's what it's been. They played Central Coast Mariners and Brisbane Roar at home, 2 games where they should have picked up 3 points. They should have at least picked up 4 points across those 2. They ended up with 2 points. So traveling to Melbourne, where they traditionally have struggled, I think it's 19 games without a win now.
Yeah.
57.
Well, no expectations going into that one, particularly without the new signing and Alex Rufer. The more concerning thing, and I think we're going to look back on this at the end of the season when they will either be 6th or 7th or lower, and we're going to say those games, the Brisbane Roar game, the Central Coast Mariners game, those are games where they should have picked up points. So this weekend, we'll get into it, but didn't really have too much going into that game. They were a chance off that ball in from Tim Payne, trying to find Costa Barbarousis.
Yeah.
But again, and this is where I do agree with Macca, the pickings have been too lean. They need more volume, although they have been efficient over the course of this season, especially last season. They need to give Costa more opportunity because he's been prolific with what he's got. Give him more in the toolkit to play with.
one thing I saw in this, and sticking with the French theme, which I'm going to throughout today's episode, people, just so you've been warned. Laurent Blanc took France to the 2012 Euros as coach, and I think it was the semi-final or the quarter-final against Spain, and he played 4 fullbacks on the pitch and was run out of town. It was the national disgrace. Gone was French flair, or any even tactical awareness of how to play your position and to play and to take the game. Chiefy had 4 fullbacks out on the field here. We had Kelly Heald ahead of Sutton, and on the other side, Corbin Piper, who's maybe a fullback, maybe can just play everywhere, up front, central defence. I haven't seen him in goal yet, but he's a fullback essentially. Well, at least that's what we were sold, and Payne as well. I mean, what are you scared of Melbourne Victory's wide players here? Is that, or it's just there's nobody else? So we could have played Costa Barbarouses at right back.
I think there's no one else, and that sounds kind of like a surrenderalist approach, but that's what it was. They literally didn't have anyone else, and I think you can say, yeah, look, they're setting up to defend. I would actually argue that what Chiefy's trying to do here is create outlets that are high and wide. So he's not going to get much out of Costa. In fact, in this game, he dropped a lot off the line, and he was on the ball quite a bit, and he gave the Phoenix an outlet and a way to break through Melbourne Victory. And that's something that they've struggled with. A lot of the time, the ball has been suffocated centrally. With Kelly Heald and with Piper, you can hit a diag. You can find them in a 1v1 battle, and predominantly they're going to be able to at least make it messy, if not keep the ball. And then you can bring the technical players in off the back of that. So I do hear what you're saying. It's almost like a doubling down on a Mikel Arteta type approach. We've got these centre-backs, these defensive
But where are you putting your technical players? Where are you putting your technical players if you've got 2 central defenders, 4 fullbacks,
on the bench or in the treatment
midfielder?
room? Yeah, so no Stefan Kolakowski for the rest of the season. Marco Rojas is a chance to come back over the course of the next month. Those are 2 massive players in my mind as to how Chiefy wants to operate. No Geraldish yet.
Yeah.
Robbie, is that what we're going with? The Portuguese on the end? Geraldish?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, why not?
Geraldish.
So he's a player in the same profile of those 2 technical players. I do think if I was to compare this team this season to the team last season, what they don't have is the Bojidar crave. They don't have the physical presence to then play off. And I do think Chiefy's reverted to in the last couple of weeks.
They also
have a presence out wide.
They also don't have a Ben Old, a Ben Wayne, those other guys that were taking that running duties and stretching defences that Costa's trying to do on his own at the moment. Those guys, and you're right, Kraev as well, even David Ball in the past years would just, even if he wasn't scoring goals, he was dragging defences around. It just seems at the moment that Costa is the only one that is making those runs. And I think teams are now going, well, if we can stop Costa's runs through there, then it's not going to be a problem. Seems to be no other outlet. What was it, the 68th minute or something like that before they got a shot on target again? And we talk about
their only shot on target.
Their only shot, yeah. And I just feel that while Costa is that only outlet that is really a danger as far as whether it's speed, technical ability or whatever, you can talk about, Corbin Piper, he's a big unit. Kelly Heald's a big string bean unit as well. They'll battle and fight. But if you don't have that explosive power or that technical ability to run at players and cause problems and drag people around, that doesn't create space for Costa to run. Costa's running against 2 centre-backs most of the time, one in front, one behind. Because they sit so deep a lot, how often do you see that they play the ball forward and one centre-back just steps in front of him while he's like, I'm fucking 4'2" here, and I'm not going to win that one. It just seems so one-dimensional at the moment. And you're right, they are missing a few players. And I've said it before.
But everyone is. Half the league is missing players.
But there are some teams, and you mentioned Rufer there, Spooners, that there are some teams like for example, Western United. I think Angus Thurgate, when he's out, he's a huge out. I think Rufa's the same here. When he's out, he's the one who actually dictates, organises. You can see him instructing people where to move off the ball. I'm going here, you go there because that's where it's coming next. He has such a big influence in that player. He might not be the player that's going to pick up the ball and run it 30 yards and take two people on and bang it top corner, but he organises. And when he's not there, they look like a completely different outfit than when he is there.
That's right, mate. And I mean, it sounds so simplistic, but he is somebody that is almost in that spiritual leader, talismanic role. You get that with Tim Payne, but he's a right back. He's not going to be able to influence things as much. And we actually had David Ball on a podcast that I'm doing with Goran Paladin after he'd left the Phoenix. And he said people don't appreciate the value that Alex Rufer brings to the side. He was given the captaincy probably earlier than a lot of people thought he should have been given it. A lot of people were arguing, why is he in the team? But what he did provide is leadership. He's calm, he's composed. And the other thing, Macca, is that composure, that certainty emanates outwards. And players play better when he's on the field.
Yeah.
He sets the press, which is probably something a lot of people don't appreciate. He moves people into pockets to then get them to suffocate in down one side, or to say, no, we're not going here, we're going to sit in. On the ball as well, this season in particular, he's had a much larger role. The playbook's been a lot wider. He's been able to get forward, to spray passes when we've seen him probably keep things nice and tight recently. I had this argument a lot with Piney. My argument is he's missing a complementary piece in Božidar Krajev, that physicality. I think Paolo Retre is getting there. We just haven't seen them on the field together in the last couple of weeks because of the glandular fever. To your point, though, Macca, who are the runners that are getting up alongside Costa Barbarouses, so the defence has to be mindful of 3 runners and not just one? If you look at those parts, the ones that are most likely going to step into the Ben Old shoes, they're in the first year of their professional football career. Nathan Walker, I think, has been good at times. There hasn't been out in product just yet. Luke Brooks-Smith, I think, looks every bit Paul Eiffel, which is a massive compliment to the youngster, the 16-year-old. And then one player that we haven't seen this year is Sloan Rodriguez. He was someone that's had a lot of he's had a lot of positivity come back about him and what he's doing behind closed doors. Unfortunately, he's been injured. The other thing is they're going to take time to develop. So I think that probably speaks to the fact that Rufa, Payne, Costa, Barbarouses, even Marco Rojas are even more important this year than they would be in other years. So having them back into the team this week in Derby week, I reckon you're going to see a lot more combativeness, a lot more confidence, and a lot more conviction from the Wellington Phoenix team, even if it's just going to be out of possession. What are they going to do defensively? I think we're going to see bite from them this week as they come into Mount Smart.
Oh, I'd like to see that. Please. All right. Well, let's hope we do. That's enough fucking hell talking about Wellington Phoenix. They scarcely deserve that on what we've seen this season. But well done, Spooners. Let's chat a little bit about Melbourne Victory then. And to get this argument going, we know that they're a first half team and not a second half team. I was having a look at a little bit of the XG. Now, I don't know where I don't know where everyone stands on the XG argument, but Melbourne Victory are underscoring their XG by more than any other side in the competition. They have the second highest XG, and they have something like the 6th best attack. I think they've only scored 24 or 25 goals, and their XG is like just behind MacArthur, above 30. They should score more. Virgos got his 4th goal of the season. It was a good goal, good cross, good header. Nothing apart from being tighter in your marking, but I mean, that's what we can say about every single goal that's scored. There's a mistake somewhere, I guess, but it was a nice goal. And just by reference, to bring it back to Wellington Phoenix, because normally if you're XG, now let's just get this off the chest. So for a penalty, the XG is 0.78 because 78 out of 100 penalties are statistically scored. So that's where the XG is. So if your XG over the course of a season is 25, it means you should have scored probably nearly another third more than that, or at least 20% more than that. So 25, add to that another fifth, you're around 30 goals. Wellington Phoenix XG is 14.5 for this season. 14.5. They have scored 16. So they haven't underscored their XG, which, but they could barely have underscored it. I mean, it is almost fucking non-existent. There is, however, one team that has a worse XG, and that is Perth Glory. So there you go.
Well, speaking of XG,
Macca, yeah,
their XG was 0 at halftime for the Knicks.
0.00.
Yeah, that was their expected goals at halftime. And there was not a
they
shot.
Did get a 1-1. They did get a 1-1 draw last year with the 0.00 XG.
Yeah, they did. And the same, there was not a shot on goal in the first half. And I must admit, I was out coaching on Friday night, and then I had meetings after, and then I was just getting in the car, and I had a couple of messages from someone saying, "Are you watching the game?" I said, "I'm going to watch it when I get home." And one message said, "Don't bother," and the other one said, "Watch it on 2 times speed." And I was like, "Oh fuck, I'm in for a blockbuster here, aren't I?" I was anticipating. I walked straight into the fridge when I walked in the garage when I got home and pulled a six pack out to get me through this one. But yeah, look, it's again, there's some teams with some things that we talk about, and we talk about Wellington about, they don't create things, and the possibility of them being near the top end when you don't create so many opportunities is diminishing over time, blah, blah, blah. We always say that. We say the same for Victory, is that here they are, they create all of this, they've got these attacking players, they create all these opportunities, and they don't put teams to the sword. We see it time and time again. If you look across the course of the game, they had 16 shots, but their XG is 1.5. But that doesn't also account for things like when a Piscopo or a Arzani or whoever gets in behind and puts a ball across the box and it just rolls across and no one's there to get on the end of it. That doesn't go towards XG. The ball? Are they picking out players? Are they hitting the right areas? Are the strikers making the right runs at the right time? All those things don't go into XG either. So I look at it. Is it even worse than what their XG says? Because they've got when you think of Victory, you always think of attacking flair football. And I still think of that with Victory now. They control games. They have plenty of possession. There's guys running at the wingers that just get the ball and run at defenders. Santos is like that now as well. And you think, exciting play. But fuck me. The frustrations their fans must feel and themselves, that they don't kill teams off as regularly as they do.
Well, we had this chat last week about Sydney FC a little bit, about how they should not be where they are given their squad and the way they play and their attacking potential. And it's the same thing for Melbourne Victory. They shouldn't be in the situation they find themselves, with the players they have, but also with the experience, with the style of football they play. They should be killing it. And it's almost,
they are third.
It's negligent. Yeah, they are.
Yeah, but mate, I'm with Robbie on this. No, but I think
third. What the fuck is this shit?
Well, we're not at Auckland
should be
yet.
Right at up with Auckland. I think that I think if Auckland has overperformed, Sydney and Victory in particular have underperformed, given what they've got and what others in the league don't have.
On paper,
I was expecting a lot more of an unbalanced league this year, and that hasn't eventuated. To your point, though, Robbie, Victory are the inverse of the Phoenix. And just bear with me, I'm going back to the Phoenix for a second. The important moment for the Phoenix's play is when they get the ball into the centre of the park. They're not looking to camp in an opposition's half and then open them up. They want to break quickly from the centre of the field. 2 points on that. XG doesn't pick it up. That's an important moment because you don't score goals from halfway unless you're Costa Barbarouses against Newcastle Jets. Equally, I don't think referees are picking up on that either, particularly early doors. We saw Corbin Piper lose almost 2 boots in his shirt and there wasn't a yellow card that was produced. Yeah. We see that over the course of 60 minutes. And the Phoenix, in my mind, they are missing out on yellow cards for the opposition because they're not deemed dangerous moments. And that is one thing that I think needs to be looked at because people aren't appreciating the style of play.
That's across the board, though, Spooners. You bring up a good point. Yeah. And I know Harps was on it about on a couple of occasions on the weekend, but we've been talking about this off air quite a bit lately that these pulling of shirts in their own midfield as teams are breaking, and you're right, it's usually in the first half, and the ref just goes beep, and you're like, no, that was a break. That was an opportunity for a team to go that you've just stopped by the professional foul. Fucking book them. Because I can tell you right now, the next time that they break, they won't pull the shirt because they'll be off. And they're getting away with it. So they do it again, and then another one does it, then the next player does it. And you're like, this is bullshit. It's killing the speed and the flow of the game. And it is taking away attacking opportunities and exciting opportunities in the match, which, to them might be, it's just a silly foul in their own half. No, that's stopping this. This is a recurring theme. And we've been this is mounting for us over the weeks that we've been starting to get pissed off with that as well. That you pull a shirt, that's a professional foul. Yeah? If someone runs past you and you pull the shirt, bang, yellow card. Don't do it.
Take a moment to look forward, Robbie, because the foul happens on halfway. The important thing is what's in advance of that.
Correct.
If it's a 2-on-2 or a 3-on-3, which the Wellington Phoenix want to create, just using them as an example, Macca, then for mine, no, you knew exactly what you're doing. Correct. And when it's Adama Traore and Roderick Miranda on Corbin Piper, just to use the example here, you sure as shit know that they are doing it intentionally. They know that there's danger there that needs to be nullified. And the fact that they've almost pulled the shirt off his back and the boots off his feet, that for me was one where I was like, that's the extreme end, but it's indicative of a pattern.
Yeah, it's been happening throughout. Well, look, we've just spent fucking 26 minutes on Melbourne victory versus Wellington Phoenix. So if our listeners' ears aren't fucking bleeding, I've got good news for you. Next up is Melbourne City versus Perth. Let's go.
Fucking go.
Okay.
Should we start with the strike? Get everyone back up, Robbie?
So this one, hang on, let me just check if there was anything left to say in my notes about that. No, okay, fuck it, let's move on. Look, I thought Perth have shown signs over the last few weeks of, being perhaps a little bit unlucky, getting back into games. This one was on just before the match I was commentating, so I've been sort of I've rewatched the mini matches on 2 occasions. They are lucky to be anywhere near Melbourne City on the scoreboard in this one. They had 3 chances, and they were good chances, but fuck, this was not an easy watch either. I think we're seeing in Melbourne City, the kids had so many chances to score. Lecky and Tilio are starting, but they're not back to their best, not by a long stretch. I mean, they have missed over half the season as well. Yeah, so that's not going to happen automatically. But Melbourne City, they ended that run, I guess, of 5.5 hours without scoring. And I'm going to have to leave you because I've got a very important call to take concerning some news coming up later. So I'm just going to log off. You guys talk amongst yourselves.
You just mute yourself, mate, and we'll talk how boring it was.
Well, I genuinely want to chat about the exciting youngsters that are coming through from City, though. Appreciate this was a game where they didn't hit their stride, but the difference between the 2 sides on the day was a wonderful strike from, I hope I'm getting this right, Lawrence Wong, the youngster, mate. Yeah. Unsavable shot. And although you've got Lecky, you've got Tilio coming back in, the senior players, these nailed-on starters, I'm really excited about this horse race that's occurring just below them in the pecking order to see who can then jump up into that starting 11 because they're very technical. They've got the physical ability that you come to expect with a Melbourne City player, and a lot of them, Zane Schreiber, for example, Max Caputo's coming up with some moments, but they're contributing. Yeah. And if you want to talk about the Wellington Phoenix being impacted by injuries and explaining what's happened with them, Melbourne City, you can say the exact opposite of. They've been impacted by injuries, but the youngsters have come up and they've really stepped up and I think matched the competitive sharpness that's required to get results.
They had to. The young fellas had to step up because there was no other option. And what a job they've done. And Lawrence Wong, when you speak to the Melbourne City, the coaching staff, they've got big raps on him, and you can see that the fact that he's still playing now when players are starting to come back, that speaks volumes for it. The first, what would it be, 20, 30 minutes between Wong, Rahmani and Tilio Caputo had a couple of chances, but those three in particular, you could just feel them all starting to really get their groove on in the game, starting to take control, and then the combinations were starting to come. They had plenty of chances that you thought should have done better there, and is this going to bite them in the arse like it has done in recent weeks? But you're right. There's the fact that they've got these young guys coming through, and when you look at the bench as well, who came on? Jurakovic, Politidis, who I think has been exceptional this season, Gossaini and Schreiber. You're right. These young guys are coming on and still getting the job done. Now, was it the most entertaining game? No. Was the first 30 minutes I thought was pretty good. And Perth, as we said, had some good opportunities as well. Was the second half entertaining? Not a hope in hell. I must admit I was in studio, so for the second half we were starting to do other stuff, but there was not much that was getting our attention back to the game for us to go, oh, what's going on there? Because it sort of became a stalemate, didn't it? They kept the ball, they moved it around, they didn't really create many opportunities. And I agree with Robbie. Perth are looking more and more like a team as the season progresses. Obviously, probably a little too late. But you can see that progression as they're moving forward. But, yeah, look, their second half, when we talk about XG, with Robbie loves his XG, their second half XG is 0.08. So I think that speaks volumes about how the second half went when they only had 36% possession. It turned into more like a training game of we'll keep the ball, move it around and try and fashion something, but couldn't quite do it.
No. I will say this, and this is a roundabout compliment. I think Perth they've done well to recruit Lachie Wales. I love what Lachie Wales is doing off the back of Adam Taggart.
Splashing the cash.
Well, great, mate, because he's somebody that, to your point, if you can keep him involved in the game, if you can make sure you find him in some space, I can now see what Perth is trying to do. They've got Taggart and Wales up front, big engines, big physical players. They're starting to work themselves out behind that line. And although he had a nightmare last week, Ollie Sale, is he the long-term answer? Are we going to see him back in New Zealand? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But he's somebody I feel like now he's just sticking to goalkeeping. And people were asking me, why is he making so many mistakes? The answer was he was trying to do more than what he should have been doing. He was so concerned with what was going on that he wasn't sticking to his core responsibilities, and that meant that he was going through lapses. He came up big a number of times. There was one block where the goal was disallowed for offside. But I think he's someone that you're going to see more of when he has better players around him, because he's not going to be thinking about what could constantly go wrong. Yeah. And that constant starting to reduce for Perth Glory now, although they're not really getting the results.
I think they missed Pennington, to be honest. I think he was really starting to find his groove, and I thought him and young Freeney have been doing well in the midfield. They started to feel like they were starting to get a hold of maybe not controlling games, but just not getting ripped apart, which is what was happening before. And I think there's, when you think about improvements, okay, maybe they're still not in the pattern of a game where they're controlling the game and dominating, but they can hold their own now in that spot. And Tarash Gamulka, who I've always liked from the City when he was at City, he's been a bit up and down since then, and probably more down than up. I'm hoping he starts to find his groove again and becomes that player that can really solidify that middle and allow the Lachie Wales Taggarts to really cause danger down the other end. I'd still like to see more from Pat Wood. I think he's been a bit underwhelming since he's gone there. Maybe he's still struggling with game time because he hadn't had any at Sydney for so long. But improving signs for Perth, but are still a long, long way to go.
Mate, I reckon you can summarise Perth like this. No one's expecting anything from them this season. And because of that and the corrections that have been made, it's almost like they've become a lot of people's second favourite team in the competition. Yeah. People are looking for them. They're a redemption story. Yeah. And we're starting to see steps in the right direction, which from Auckland at least, there's an endearing quality about that. Yeah. And I feel like they're one or two pieces away from really competing, but there's definitely promise that's starting to merge into their game at the moment.
Yeah.
Okay, time for the Who the Fuck Am I? And we threatened you all last week with the possibility of winning something this week. Right. Well, Macca and I ain't done fuck about that, so there's no prize again this week.
Fingers crossed we might have something next week.
But we are getting closer. I promise you we are getting closer to sorting out something perhaps. Anyway, last week's answer. Who is the surrealist painter named player in question? It was Rene Kirhin, who was born in the former Yugoslavia, Slovenia, came through the youth ranks at Inter Milan. His first professional season was 2010 when with Rocky Balboa up front, if you remember, they won the Champions League. Who was that player? The Argentine striker. Looked Rocky exactly Balboa. Like Rocky Balboa. Yeah.
Oh.
What was his name? My God, what's going on? This is the alcohol. Okay. Anyway, I remember that distinctly because Thiago Motta was sent off in the semi-final and missed the final for an elbow against Busquets, which hit Busquets, just brushed him in the sternum, and Busquets went down holding his face as though he'd been elbowed in the face and got Motta sent off. And Motta was fucking fuming. Anyway, let's go. Who the fuck am I for this week? I came through the youth ranks of my hometown club, a very prominent European club which has had and still has prominent ties to Australia. In the end, in my career, I played for 12 different clubs in my homeland, as well as 1 2-year stint overseas in the A-League. In my first season, I just missed out on finals. In my second season, I narrowly avoided the wooden spoon. My largely innocuous career was punctuated by my participation in one of the biggest, most widespread and sanctioned match-fixing scandals in modern history, for which I received an 18-month ban from the game. Who the fuck am I? And what was my youth club as well as the bonus question? I don't think there was a bonus question for Rene Kirhin, but there you go. That's the one for this week, and good luck to any of you that may think you know the answers. I won't ask my 2 cohorts on the pod because looking at the blank stares, which I appreciate that they have most of the time, they don't know. And that brings me right back into the discussion, perfectly timed for a little chat about Auckland, who are top of the league. Spooners can hardly wipe the smile off his face because, and it's probably disbelief as much as anything, Macca scored. Incredible. He did miss a clear header, which was bloody hell, money for old rope, really, for a striker with his size and stature and everything that, and reputation as well, that he should have put away. But he did get there in the end. Is that his second goal of the season? A second tap in from the big man? He does put himself about though. Western United at home at Tarneet, in the wind as it is. In Tarneet. It's not an easy place to play. I'll just run you through a few of the stats of this one because this one was on concurrently to the game I was commentating, Adelaide versus Newcastle. 11 shots each, 3 on target for Western United, 2 on target for Auckland, 23 touches in the opposition box for Western United, 21 for Auckland, 67 final third entries for Western, 61 for Auckland. Tackles, Western United, 9, Auckland, 21. They are a tackling side that, if you are not ready for the physical challenge, will bully you off the football pitch. Jacob Spoonley, is this how you envisage football on the other side of the ditch? Pep Guardiola would have walked away from this. He would have said, this is not beautiful football.
I'm not sure he would have made it as far as Tarneet, mate. I love the opening shot of a traffic, the traffic filing into the traffic jam filing into the stadium, and then when you saw Alex Paulson knocking a ball up and almost coming back to him for him to catch it, I mean, that was magnificent. But this is Auckland. This is the way they're going to play, and teams know that this is what they're going to do. The question isn't how do you combat that, it's how long you can combat it for. In combination with the fitness that they are demonstrating and their depth, it really is an issue for teams to try and come up with the answers. I'll chuck another stat at you, Robbie. I think it's something like 60% of their goals have come in the last 5 minutes or 10 minutes before halftime and full time. Those are the times when you're under the cosh, you're feeling the pain, you want to get into the sheds or you want to get off the field, and they just throw wave after wave. And it's not complicated, but at the same time, I don't think it's simplistic. It takes a lot to get into the right area to score the goal. And this is something that I feel like Bimby gets criticised a lot for with the Sydney team, so that it's not a complicated way of playing football, but it's effective. And we're seeing that with Auckland as well this time around. To your point around Max, I think Max has added another dimension to this Auckland side. They were playing quite a diminutive front line, a lot of kind of quick players that want to break from deep. Max has given them a bit of a pivot, a central focal point, a tip of the spear, and he's created a lot more space for others to play in, but he's also allowed Gajimo Mai to play in what I think is his much more suited role, the number 10 position, Velcro on the touch at times. Macca, you would have loved his ability to snake his way through a couple of defenders off a long ball, mate. I've seen him control so many balls played in over 30 metres, and he just turns, takes it with the chest and fades off somebody. The conditions, though, fuck me, Robbie. I would have thrown a tantrum, mate. I hate wind. I can't think of anything worse to play in.
The worst.
And it was horrible for both sides, but it's testament to Auckland that they lent into that and they still managed to grind Western down, win the game in, 5 minutes? Packed your bags, leave Tarneet, back to Auckland for the derby.
Well, this game pissed me off before it even kicked off because for the tactician, I was asked, what do we want to do? And I said, well, it's a time of year now where we should be starting to look at which players have actually made their mark on the league, who are putting their hands up for potential player of the year kind of players. And I looked at this game and I went, fuck, Angus Thurgate and Louis Verstrada. Let's do fucking some stuff on them. So we get to go, and then I hear, oh, no, Angus Thurgate's out. I said, oh, okay, well, we can sort of work on Angus Thurgate's not going to be here, so we can work on how are they going to replace him, but they're going to, whoever's in there is going to have to deal with Verstrada. So we did all that, and then on Friday, someone on Channel 10 messaged through going, oh, Verstrada's out as well. I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. So I had to message the producers and say,
you had 2 weeks. He's been suspended.
Well, surely the producers should have told me this stuff, Macca. They're both suspended. Anyway, so that was me fucking fuming before the game even started because I was like, well, now you're going to have to cut. Anyway, fuck, that's just that's personal problems. Now I go on every week. Okay. Now I go on to Optastats and check who's got yellow cards before I say, oh, this week, Ryan Teague, is he fucking suspended? Fucking better not be. But I got a question from the game from both of you, that I thought he might have been lucky to get away with. Hiroshi Ibasuki. No, there didn't seem to be much talk around that. I think he meant to elbow. Who did he elbow in the face?
Yeah, right on the jaw.
Yeah,
got him right.
Was it Pineacre? He fucking battered him, and I honestly, he went like that and swung his arm around, and I think he was very, very lucky to stay on the park. And we know that Hiroshi's not normally that kind of player, but for a split second, I think he lost his rag. And we've spoken about how Pineacre is big and strong and he bullies players. Yeah. And we watch him when he's not on camera, and you watch him in the background and he'll be giving defenders attackers a little bump in the back, and all this shit that annoys strikers. And I think Ibasuki just flipped a switch and fucking elbowed him, and I think he was very lucky to stay on the park. Thoughts?
Roberto, you first, mate.
Yeah,
Okay,
I agree.
Moving on.
I think, yeah.
Mate, don't come to me because I've had an article written about my inability to call a penalty correctly over the last 2 weeks.
Well, you know,
I've had 3 penalty shouts, the Moreno one, the 2 for the Wellington Phoenix against Central Coast Mariners. And
Economides, yeah.
We've worked this out, Spooners, that you're not allowed to have penalties in New Zealand. So it's a rule. In the bylaws.
Any more matches in New Zealand, no
You know how
pens.
last year the Wellington fan found out about the wins instead of goal difference? Well, you need that fan to roll through somewhere in subsection Z, fucking 1.3 to subclause this. There are no penalties allowed in New Zealand. Just that's
it's something to do with exactly. It's something to do with playing club football in the
Oceania.
Asian Confederation, but national in
Asia.
Oceania. Something got there about penalties involved in that as well.
I'll look into it, lads. But I think I agree with Macca. And the thing that I got frustrated with, and I've been frustrated with this in the game that I wasn't involved in against Brisbane, is the explanation. Contact was negligent. Okay, cool, we move on. Jack Morgan, the penalty shout last week for the Phoenix against Brisbane Roar, not enough contact. I don't want paragraphs, but I want a little bit more of an explanation. And to say it's negligent when we've seen, to Macca's point, Ibasuki arguably retaliate, throw an elbow, make connection. I was very surprised, and the only thing that stopped me tweeting about this, Macca, was the fact that I'd had about 3 beers and I was watching this game.
And I thought, come on, that's the only time.
No, don't do that. Don't ruin your weekend. I agree. I thought he was very fortunate and surprised also that the match review panel hadn't gone back and had a look at it.
Exactly, because if you're catching a player on the pitch as well with a dangerous swinging arm or something, even if it's completely not intentional, it can still be considered reckless.
This is the thing.
You know, intention is not in any of that. If you have a swinging arm or whatever, and you're catching someone flush with a forearm or an elbow in the jaw, then that's sanctionable.
This is the thing that frustrated me, Robbie, is that arguably negligence should be enough because you've taken risk into your own hands, and if he makes contact with Painaka there and breaks his jaw, you're looking at the result of the instance as being the justification for a red card, not what the player was taking a risk in doing. And that's where it really bugs me, mate. So I agree, Macca. That was one where I thought very, very fortunate.
Okay, let's finish this with a very brief, because we're going long. We've still got 2 more games to go. Discussion about Auckland being 5 points clear at the top and where are the challenges, because I was commentating in the next game with Andy Harper, Adelaide versus Newcastle, and we were looking at the ladder and suddenly dawned on us that if Auckland win the league, they do not qualify for the Asian Champions League next year because of this no penalties in New Zealand loophole, which means that that they're not allowed to qualify for the Asian Champions League, which means second place will, but there doesn't seem to be anyone that wants that second place at the moment. And we can link this in now moving into Adelaide perhaps, but again, this is the negligence in their professional way of going about things, if you like, of the likes of Melbourne City, of Melbourne Victory and Sydney FC, who are the big guns. I mean, over the last few years, we've seen Western United win the league from nowhere with a couple of big players that came in and made the difference, but a club that did not have the structure or the stature to pretend to be winning the league. Then that was followed up by the Central Coast Mariners, who, as we have seen with the ownership change that they've just had, was not a flush, fully functional, perfectly operational, professional structure either, wins the league. And now we've got a side that comes in Auckland, in their first ever inaugural campaign, and they're fucking 5 points clear at the top. And where are the other teams? Seriously. And it's not just the other teams like your Newcastle and your Western United and your Perth, who are clearly struggling in terms that we know there's no money, it's difficult for the players. We're talking about teams that have experienced players that have big foreigners, Sydney, Melbourne Victory, Melbourne City, that should at least be, and I know, yes, Melbourne Victory are third, Sydney are fourth. Oh no, Melbourne City are fourth, Sydney have dropped down, and Western United there. But they should be pushing, shouldn't they? Or is there still enough of a way to go that this could all change?
Well, I'll be honest, and we've spoke about this early in the season. I think it's a testament to Auckland and their recruitment and the way they've done things. Obviously, Bill Foley has done this before with sporting teams. He's got other sporting teams of different codes as well. And I think he knows how to set these things up or put the right people in the place to put all the structures in place to get it right. And I think the recruitment that they've done with their players has been phenomenal. Like they are. So when I talked before about Angus Thurgate being a really influential player that if you take him out, you think, wow, that's a big loss for them. I think Verstraete's been fantastic this year. But he comes out and I go, oh, yeah, but they've got Pineacre. They've got Smith. Dan Hall hasn't been there. They've got Smith. They've got De Vries, who's been fucking spectacular. They've got you can look across the Auckland team and actually go, do you know what? There's probably 3 or 4 of those players who are putting their hand up to go, oh, I think I could be in the shout for the Johnny Warren medal because they've been exceptional week in, week out. And that's a testament to their recruitment. That's a testament to Stevie Corica and the way that he's got them playing. Like Spooner said, probably not every game are you looking at them going, oh, wow, look at the way they play. But fuck, sometimes they just grind things out. They fucking dominate teams. They oppress them. And I think that's a testament to Auckland. And yes, there are failings on the other team, but I don't think we should be saying that I don't think we should be taking away from what Auckland have done in that space in such a quick time. The way I sort of thought your question sounded a bit like, yeah, Auckland aren't all that. These other guys should be.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clear that. We're not saying that.
Auckland, exactly. I'm saying Auckland are there, but the others should fucking be there too.
Yeah, and look, if you Auckland are 5 points clear, but after that, what do we got? You got 6 points separating 6-7 teams. So it is a good race.
Yeah.
It's just
and
the fact that Auckland are going, fuck you, catches.
I think just to add to what Mac is saying there, Auckland have arguably zigged where others are zagging. So we've seen a huge motivation and a business model in a lot of teams now based around developing youngsters. Arguably, Auckland haven't done that. They've gone out and recruited well with their overseas players. A lot of them have been mid-20s. They've also got a lot of Kiwis that other A-League sides haven't want to take a risk on because arguably you're not going to get the value in them compared to a Brazilian or a European-based player. And they've been outside the Phoenix's recruitment horizon. So Francis De Vries, everyone asks, where has he come from? Oh my God, you found a miracle player. I'm like, no, he's been there the whole time. He's been playing in Sweden. Yeah. It's a decent league. It's not an amazing league, but it allows you to craft the tools that he's now bringing to bear on the A-League. Nando Pineacre is a player that I think in a lot of ways we're lucky to have. He unfortunately got stuck in Ireland and needed to take a sideways step, if you want to call it that, to then take the next step forward in his career. Kellen Elliott hasn't got much game time this year, but he is somebody that I think is ready to go, along with Cam Howson. He hasn't seen much game time this year yet, Macca, but if Jake Brimmer goes down, I thought we might see him play alongside Jake Brimmer on the weekend, but Felipe Gallegos got the nod. If any of that midfield goes down, look for Cam Howson to step in. And what that's doing, that cohort of players, it's allowing Auckland to be consistent, but also arguably they're now starting to cut across what a lot of the other teams are doing. And they are different, Robbie. And it's a different proposition, and teams aren't ready to play that.
But they don't have an academy yet,
they don't have an academy yet.
I mean,
they
can't bring youth players through yet. Exactly.
And the thing is, too, Bill Foley said from the start, and this is his mantra. So let's take an example, right? Maverick Sports take over Newcastle. They came in and said, right from the start, they were up front. They said, we're not going to throw millions of dollars into the first team. We're going to build the academy. This is a long-term venture. We're going to turn this club into a model that breaks even, and then we're going to bring players through and sell them. Bill Foley come in and went, we're going to win it season 1. he made the statement. He said, I ain't here to fucking make up the numbers. We're going to win it. So Stevie Corica, and he backed it with money. I'm sure that there's some players there on some decent money. And so Stevie Corica knew, I don't have to worry about going, I'll get 20 players and 4 scholarship players. He's gone, I'm going to get the best 23 players or whatever, however many. I'm going to get the best ones for this that I want to get. And, you know, across the board, he's done a fantastic job. So they had that backing, you know, and they have that license to go, well, go and get who you want. And I think that's a big difference. Rather than you talk to a lot of the other clubs, like you talk to nearly every club, especially with the APL disbursements, they're all going, oh, well, our budget's been cut. I've spoken to some coaches, our budget's been cut by 1.8 million.
Yeah.
And you're like,
and it's probably going to be the case next year as well for the majority of the A-League clubs. So anyway, I didn't mean that for another fucking discussion about New Zealand football. Fuck. All right.
We didn't get Spooners on for no reason, did we? Is that it? Are the Kiwi done now? Fuck off, Spooners.
Okay, well, now we can talk some serious stuff, Macca, that Spooners is gone.
Kiwi gibberish that we've had on. Going on.
Jesus, it's a miracle if we have any.
I didn't understand a word he said. Anyway, did we have to get translations at the bottom?
Subtitles. Yeah, exactly. All right, Adelaide 1, Newcastle 2, back-to-back wins for the Jets. Now, this is, that in itself is pretty amazing. I made a couple of not-so-subtle jokes in my intros about how they still had a pulse and have they, resurrected their season the week before, courtesy of that young man who had his medical emergency and came back to life, which was quite brilliant. Great news story. Coming out of the North New South Wales coast or whatever. What do you call New South Wales? Mid New South Wales.
Northern
coast.
New South Wales, mate.
Mid-northern coast. All right, fucking hell. Well, anyway, great story out of there. And they backed it up with another win. Archie Goodwin was up against his former club. He's already scored more goals for Adelaide than he did in 4 years for Newcastle, but he didn't score in this one.
No.
And Macca, he probably should have.
Yeah,
before LA Rose gave Newcastle the lead through another Kota Mizunuma cross. Those two have developed quite the relationship. Stephen Mork equalised with pouncing on a loose ball and volleying home, and then Clayton Taylor got the winner in the end for Newcastle. And the stats suggest that Adelaide will be pissed off at not being able to score probably 15 goals in this one, but in the end, yeah, I mean they really should have. We did see 2 youngsters come on. They put a lot of pressure on the end. It was entertaining. It was a great finish. I think it was a good game to watch. We saw Amlani Tatu come on. He is not the youngest ever A-League player, but he is the most recently born A-League player. To take the field to make his debut. And Harry Crawford, I think, who'd played a game for the MPL team earlier in the day.
I was just looking for his name.
Really good.
Yeah, 90 minutes in the MPL and then comes on for the first team. So I can do all this, plenty of footballers talk about this, don't we, about game management and recovery and all this. Did you play 90 minutes today with the MPL team? Yep, fuck it. You're in the first team and you're going on. That was pretty good. That's what I like to see. Young players, they can fucking deal with that stuff, no problem. But
exactly. They can run all day. That was when Ryan Kiddo, just very quickly, Kiddo was injured during the warm-up, came off. Alagic went to left back. Ryan White came on in the midfield for his first ever start, and the young said Harry Crawford came onto the bench. Probably still wasn't expecting to play, but did. Anyway, this one, Macca.
Well, it was like the Alamo, wasn't it? Adelaide were all over the Jets, and I've been very critical of the Jets, and I think with good cause with some of their defending this year. And I even made a little video, a childish video, and sent it between ourselves. Then you asked me if I was going to post it.
It was childish.
No. It was very childish. And you asked me if I was going to post it, and I said no because it was very, very childish. Just chopped up a few things that the coach said and then put it towards next to their goals against. And I had a giggle. We had a giggle. We all at Channel 10 had a giggle.
Yeah, it was good.
Anyone, if it goes out there, Rob won't have a giggle because he'll go, you're a cunt. But I have to give credit where credit's due, because 2 weeks in a row, Newcastle Jets have actually started to show that desperation in defence. They rode their luck a little bit. We talk about when Victory were putting balls across the box and they were flying, people weren't getting on the end of it. Well, that's what happened for Adelaide quite a lot in this game, didn't it? There was chances, there was opportunities. They didn't take them. They missed crosses. When there was a chance to be taken, the Jets actually got their body in the way and blocked it. And they now have a couple of players who can cause damage at the other end in Kota Mizunuma and Lockie Rose. And they did the old 1-2 sucker punch, one break, almost their first shot in the game, it felt like. And it was a wonderful ball and a fantastic header. And you were like, fucking hell, how have they done that? Obviously, Stephen Moore got a decent goal back on the brink of half time, and you actually thought then, all right, Adelaide are going to be too good here and run away with it. But I think the movement of Lockie Rose actually creates a lot more space for Clayton Taylor, and Newcastle were much better in the first half an hour of the second half. They were much better. It was a completely different game for that 30 minutes. And Lockie Rose's forward runs and movement and Muzanuma's movement out wide, it moves opposition defences and midfields around as well. And Clayton Taylor seems to find a lot more space, and now also adds a lot more forward runs to his game as well because of that space that's been created. And I think he's starting to see the benefits of I don't want to say he was the lone guy before, but I think before these two really started to come back into the team or come into the team, I think he was always the one that you'd look to go, well, what's Clayton Taylor going to do to unlock a defence today? Because, every now and then Eli Adams would throw something in, or Aquilina would put a good ball in, but it was very few and far between, and it seemed over-reliant on Clayton to do something. And I feel at times he would overdo something as well. He'd overplay things because he was trying so hard. But now he seems to be coming into his own, and I think Newcastle are starting to look a lot better. Momba's giving them a little bit more steel late in games as well in the middle.
Yeah.
But the last 15 minutes turned back into the Alamo, didn't it? It was an absolute barrage. And I was waiting for the old, exploding Carl Veer, but it was sort of like he was resigned to the fact that we should have scored a fucking hatful of goals. It's not going to happen today. We've had one of those days. We were probably the better team, but it didn't work today. And he sort of seemed to have that attitude that he sort of was resigned to that fact.
Yeah. And Newcastle, on the back of 6 points in a week, are just a point behind Wellington Phoenix. Now that I did not see coming. And we were talking about it on the pod, what was it, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
That Newcastle are dead and buried and no chance of finals. Now, I appreciate that this is still something of a long bow. I think it's 7 points.
It's an uphill battle, yes.
Yeah, but they are not. I haven't looked at their fixture list between now and the end of the season. But they've played less games than everybody else, and they must have a few home games because they only play about 3 home games every year at home. So there must be something coming up. There must be some games.
Home games haven't been their favourite, have they? They've only won one since April.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
Some promising signs for the Jets, and I think the signing of Kota and Lockie Rose being fit, we're starting to see what we expected from him. Some positive signs. Yeah. Look, Adelaide
tactically, the point about Lockie Rose and what he does, and you said it there with. You'd look to Clayton Taylor to make those runs, or perhaps Aquilina when he was playing high up on the other side earlier in the season. But it brings me back to the point that Spooners was making about Wellington Phoenix and saying Costa Barbarouses is coming deep. All that does, if you only have people coming deep and 2 fullbacks on either side, is you're compressing, you're inviting the defence forward. If you have a Lockie Rose or that type of player that runs in behind, or a Clayton Taylor, those runs in behind push the backline back, which makes space in midfield. It benefits the whole team, but it's a thankless task a lot of the time. Or it's it doesn't mean that a ball has to go over the top every time. But if you've only got Clayton Taylor doing it in a game, you're not making space for anyone to come through and behind. What this does is when you work, with a game plan, and players that complement each other, this is one of the great ways to create space in midfield, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's the that's the whole point.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Do we need to say anything more about this one?
No, don't think so.
Good enough game. I mean, Archie Goodwin will be disappointed not to have scored.
Well, he should have scored against them last time, and I spoke to him after because he stayed back for a couple of days, and I saw him. He was watching his brother play with the Jets Academy, and he said, I really wanted to score against Newcastle, and he had that really good opportunity that was put across him on this one. And I actually thought he'd get a goal this time because he has been in good form, and I thought he'd be the difference between the two, and he'd get his little fuck you in.
Well, he could have been. He could easily have been the difference between the two.
But wasn't to be. Fair play to the Jets. As I said, I've smashed their defence, particularly from crosses. Well, they've dug in for 2 games in a row now, so well done to them.
Yeah. All right. Last game of the weekend, and we have a little bit of news. We don't know if it'll be news by the time this gets out, but I did just take a little phone call. I've been doing a little bit of digging around after hearing a couple of rumours, and do have something to communicate at the end of this one. But Western Sydney, or should we start with it? Let's start with it. Let's get it out of the way.
Breaking news now. Who cares if it's breaking news?
Breaking news. Breaking news now, which I can confirm, which is quite a strange one. We're Monday morning. Valère Germain was suspended for 2 games and did not play on the weekend. He is moving to Japan. That's what I can tell you. He had 6 months left on his contract, or was probably going to be leaving. I got the feeling, I spoke to him about a month ago before a game, and I just got the feeling he was saying, look, it's all fine here. Playing football is nice. We have a nice lifestyle, but we're a long way away from Europe. It's not easy to get back for the family and all this sort of thing. And so I got the feeling that he wasn't going to extend his contract in Australia. I don't. It's just a feeling I had. But now he won't even make it that far, because after being suspended, by all accounts, he was very upset at being suspended for 2 games, coupled with the bye that's coming up. It meant a month without playing, more or less, and then the international break. And he was like, for what? He made an obscene gesture, is the official word, towards the referee's assistant in the game. Which game was it? 2 weeks ago. The 2-2. He grabbed his genitals and said, now this is the word out of the Valère Germain camp, and I can, because in sticking with the French theme, I can tell you what he said. He essentially looked to the thing and said, mes couilles, which is basically my balls. But you say mes couilles when you're sort of like a thing of disbelief in French. You say, oh, yeah, fuck. Like, yeah, right. You say, yeah, my balls.
Yeah, right.
And so that's what he did. And then he was suspended for 2 games. He, by all accounts, not happy about that. But by all accounts, I think, was already starting to get the feeling that his time in Australia was winding down. And anyway, he has jumped at the opportunity. The Japanese transfer window is open still for another month. And so he has played his last minutes. The MacArthur's all-time leading goal scorer has left the club in the middle of the season, in a season in which they've won the cup and were in 3rd place at the start of the weekend. They are losing Matt Smith, their assistant coach, to Malaysia. We are reliably informed as well. They've lost their 2 central defenders, starting central defenders in Aslanagic and Oliver Jones. They have lost their strikers in Valère Germain and Ariath Piol. They've lost the fastest winger in the league and had 7 assists in Jed Drew. There are other players out of contract at the end of this season. And you have to ask a couple of questions, don't you, about where this club is headed? Because that's got to be frustrating for Mile Sturjovski, who's
it's got to be frustrating
working
for
his
Mile,
arse off.
But they got 1.5 million for Drew, Piol,
and there is a fee. And there is a fee for Germain as well.
So let's say that they've pulled in over $2 million, or roughly $2 million in transfer money. Well, I'm pretty sure Millet will be knocking on the door with the upper management saying, well, surely we can use some of that for players to come in.
Well, they're playing in Asia next year.
Well,
they've won the cup, so they're in Champions League 2 next year as well.
And we all know that that's very winnable, Champions League 2.
Exactly.
As we saw with the Mariners, who MacArthur got knocked out by. So, do we look at it and say, I think it's good. They've got players who are, obviously.
Well, he's 35 years of age. Yeah. He's not the future for the club, but he has been playing well. He is probably their best player, along with someone like Jake Holman coming through who could learn off him, especially. But the problem is, it's not maybe just an isolated case. I mean, when you're trying to build a new club, you want these people to hang your hat on, to be leaders, to help, and stability. And also, I mean, we talk a lot about building legacy. And I mean, if you're sitting third in the league and you sell half your team, which is essentially what they've done in this window, are you still trying to win the league?
Well,
do you wonder, I mean, are you going to even make the 6 now?
But I even look at it and say, well, where the clubs, we constantly talk, we don't talk about it too much on this one, but the clubs are all not making a profit. They're all losing money. Yeah. So when they see an opportunity.
Every club around the world. That's
correct.
Every club around the world.
But if you can make it see, righto, if we're going to be losing $2-3 million this year and we can sell $2 million worth of players, the bottom line, there's a year's budget that you've saved of not losing, then, you've got to look at the business side of it as well. And you can't. Yes, Millet would know that situation. You'd have to in football. You know that there's going to be players coming in, and they're going to do well, and you're going to sell them off, and you're going to have to go find a new one to replace them or bring a new one up. I just think it's business. That's the way it goes. Yeah. For the fans, maybe they'll be a bit disappointed because they were doing well. It's the football world. Players move on. Yeah. Some players, he's probably going to. Well, I would be surprised if he's not going to get more money for himself and his family in Japan. The club gets some money as well, and then they have to find someone to replace him. That's the way of the world.
Well, they've brought in Saifuddin Cowie, who's just come in, who played the last 10 minutes and looked really nice. There were some nice touches, good technique. He's young. I think he's only 29, Cowie. So, he's only signed on for a year at the moment, or to the end of the season, but he has just also come from farken, which is a great name for a club. That's the club he was playing for. Now, I did check the actual pronunciation. It's not farken. It's actually Horfakan.
Right.
So but we can still call him farken. Yeah. And they brought in Kevin Bolly at the back, who didn't have a whole lot to do, but who's as an older defender. But
players are going out and no one's coming in. They're trying to replace them. It was an exciting game, I thought. I thought they were a better team,
game, wasn't it?
In the first half, in particular, they were a much better team. I thought MacArthur. Yeah. And then the roles were reversed in the second half, obviously.
Well, they changed their formation as well for the start, with Bolly coming in, and Western Sydney just couldn't deal with it, could they? We had Walter Scott on the left and Adamson on the right, and just giving this, and there was space everywhere for MacArthur. It's rare that you see a change in formation that works that well straight off.
And you wonder if they've been working on that.
Sometimes, yeah.
If they have been working as that as their second option all year and just waiting, well, if we ever need to do it. Harp said it in commentary in the first half. He said Holman and De Silva were running riot. The work rate they did, they controlled the midfield. But that did flip in the second half. I think Millet would be disappointed they didn't get something from the game, to be honest.
Absolutely.
Because they had the opportunities, didn't they? Let's be honest. Harrison Sawyer. That save from Lawrence Thomas was spectacular, but it was that was a great save.
It was fucking brilliant.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I just forgot about that. Yeah, and that replay from behind that showed how late he got down, and it was he went back to get it out as it was on the bounce as well. Yeah, that was really, really good, but it was a big 3 points for Western Sydney because at
Massive,
1-0 down.
massive for them.
It was like you could hear the fucking the fans already and the social media crawling over the top of them like that.
Exactly.
But, yeah, because so much expectation on that club in that area. But yeah, I'm sort of because I got home last night and I watched it after it was live, and I'm trying to remember all the key moments.
Well, basically, the key moments were Gabriel Cleur.
Oh,
because essentially,
yes, that's right. How could I forget that?
Gabriel Cleur, he was involved in the own goal.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, if they'd given him the own goal, and I'll go back and check, and we should actually start an online petition or something to get him the own goal, because then he gets an own goal, the assist for Milanovic, and his own goal as well. It was a great assist and a great goal from Milanovic, right on the very fucking limit of offside, like literally the heel leaning back from Uzkok.
Well, the line when the line's green, it's level, isn't it?
Exactly, it's all level.
It's level, so
exactly
couldn't timed it any better.
And then Gabriel Cleur's last goal was just fucking brilliant. Brilliant way to open your account. Yeah,
but
first ever.
The biggest
first
talking
ever
point,
A-League
as
goal.
you've already spoken about, was they'll have to do a factual review. It's not offside and it's a goal. So, what? I thought because he was so down. I honestly, when he was so downbeat, I thought he was going. I thought because he was so downbeat, he went, "It's not a goal," and then he pointed to the centre, and I was like, "What?
Yeah.
Oh, it is a goal."
But that's I was listening. The producer said there's going to be a factual review, and I said, "So it's a goal?" And they said, "We don't know. Factual review coming." And they were about to restart with the offside. So if there was a review of the offside free kick, then it meant it was a goal. And so I was waiting. And so I wasn't even watching Ali Reza. I was watching Milanovic, who was next to Borello, to see his reaction when it was announced. And it was announced and no one understood. Here in the crowd. And sort of,
what?
Everyone's like, and then it's a goal. And they point to the middle, and then they go, "He's fucking pointed to the middle." Yes, it's a goal, and so that was it. But that was funny. It was funny.
It was funny.
And then Harps found the video on his phone while we were commentating of the Brazilian referee that runs around giving all that theatrical, melodramatic stuff and dancing around on the football pitch. So it was a really entertaining match. 41 shots at goal. I think. That change in formation, which was really effective for MacArthur for most of the first half. Slowly, Western Sydney got to terms with it.
Yeah.
But what is most impressive, even if Western Sydney, like in that first half, were outplayed, they are a punchy side.
Yeah.
Like, Milanovic, Borello, Sapsford, they've got pace and danger coming forward every time. They can score. When they are right out of a game, they can score.
And they can do it from right in deep in their own box as well. Like they can go quick and they can go down the other end. Sapsford has really come into his own this year. We already knew about Milanovic from last season, and of course we all know Borello. For me, Krajev, after what I've seen of him at the Knicks, I'm probably expecting a little bit more from him. I think he's a little quiet for what we have seen from him in the past. But look,
can I jump in there? So I was in the car. Yeah, fucking earth. It's my fucking show. Tristan McManus gave me a lift home from Parramatta because, I like to get the public transport to the games. Well, yesterday there was track work. Exactly. So I had to catch the fucking train to Olympic Park and then walk fucking 10 minutes to the replacement bus stop and then catch a fucking replacement bus to Parramatta. Fuck me. I thought at one point I was watching mini matches from the day before, catching up, and then I suddenly thought, what fucking time is it? I've been on a fucking odyssey trying to get to this stadium. Normally it's like 20 minutes door to door on the train for me, which is also why I do it. But fucking hell. So I got to lift back. And anyway, chatting with Tristan, and we were talking about this exact point with Krajev, because Tristan wants more aggression and stuff out of your likes of Brillante and Priestman in the middle of the park to try and boss a game. Whereas I think, that is what it is. But they also have like I'm saying, that punch and that aggression up front with your Barellos, with your Sapsfords who are running, throw themselves about. Even Milanovic is a big, powerful kid without maybe so much of the aggro or the aggression. But your Cruyff, and I agree with you, has to step up because he is the one that has a technique. And you can't only have these guys bombing forward, carrying ball at feet, bombing forward, barreling through people, trying to create something just out of fucking chaos. Cruyff is the player that can get on the ball, get into pockets, get into good positions and harness all this energy and make it into something that's coherent, don't you think, for this team, which is what he's not doing.
Yes, 100%. And I think he has that ability to do that. We've seen him do that. So remember when he was at the Knicks last year, the amount of times when we talk, go back to the Knicks again. We keep talking about these fuckers. But how many times did he make a forward run and then hold off a defender on one side and another one would come the other way and he'd protect it and then he'd lay the ball off and they were up the field. I'm just not seeing that as much this year. I don't think he's really imposed himself in matches. Like we'd go away from a game last year and go, fucking hell, Cruyff was good. It would be one of the forefront in your mind. Cruyff was good today. I will go away from so many Western Sydney guys and we talk games and we talk about Sapsford and Barello and Milanovic and, Oscar Priestman and all these guys. I can't think of a game where I've actually gone, gee, Cruyff was fucking outstanding today. He's just not hit those heights.
Yep, I agree. All right, not much more to say about that one, perhaps, other than, the Gabriel Clerc show. And it really was. It was an outstanding way to open your account.
Last thing, Philip Curto, when he fucking smashed his head against the post when he trying to get there and then laid there. For a moment, I thought he'd fucking knocked himself out. I'm a bit concerned about him. But
he made a great save in the first half as well. I think it was from Cruyff. No, Cruyff put one across the face. They did have chances in the first half. Anyway, time to shut a stat. Andy Howe _Stato on X. You can find him. He is elsewhere as well. I'm not introducing him anymore other than saying that he is the official A-League statistician and he sends us a little bit extra each week. And so sticking with a theme, Macca, you'll be very pleased to hear we're heading back to France on this one. Over the weekend, MacArthur FC recruits Kevin Bolly and Saifeddine Khawi became the 24th and 25th French players to play in the A-League men's competition. That is born and raised in France because, of course, Bolly is from a very, very famous footballing family who represent France and Côte d'Ivoire, and Khawi was a Tunisia international who went to the World Cup in 2018 with Tunisia. Some French fast facts from Stato. So we've now had 25 French-born and raised players in the A-League. In addition to the French national teams, these 25 players have also played for Algeria, Benin, Congo, Mali, Senegal, Côte d'Ivoire, and Tunisia. The first French player in the A-League was... Any idea?
I'm fucking shit at this.
Jonathan Brew, who played for Melbourne Victory in 2012-13. You were still
Jonathan
playing.
Brew,
you would have played
was it?
Against him.
Wow.
In Ange Postecoglou's Melbourne Victory.
I wouldn't have picked him to be the first.
I have to... Yeah, so I have to check with Stato because I think he was an international for Mauritius or something, which isn't on that list. We can check that out. Anyway, I think he came through the ranks at Rennes from memory as well. Not a single French player played in the NSL. Interesting fact, that one.
Well, I played with a guy called Fouad Fredi Amlil, and he was a French-born Moroccan.
That's true. I met him, didn't I?
Yes, you did meet him.
This season.
Yes, this season we met him.
Was that at Sydney? At Allianz?
When we were at it might have been at the Unite round.
Unite round. Yes, it was.
He played for Newcastle and in the NSL.
Yeah. Okay. So, Stato. We'll have to adjust.
French.
Yeah,
maybe he's seen because he's a Moroccan. Yeah. Well, he would have had to have a French passport as well.
Yeah, he would have been if he was born in France. Yeah. Okay, Florent Berenguer has made the most A-League appearances of any French player with 139 and still counting. The most prominent French A-League player, played in a World Cup final and won 3 Premier League titles. William Gallas.
Was that Perth?
Yep, with Perth. 2 other A-League men's players were born in France. Australians.
Genre.
Denis Genreau, who I commentated Toulouse last weekend against PSG. He was not in the squad. And Tom Slater, who was born in France. There you go. He played with you, did he?
He was in the...
was he called up? What did he...
He was in the youth team at the Mariners when I was there, yeah.
Yeah. So that is, of course, Robbie Slater's kid. The first Australians to play at a high level in France were Eddie Krinčević, who played for Mulhouse, as you may know it, in 1989-90, and then Robbie Slater, who was with Lens, first in the second division and then up into Ligue 1 in the early 90s. And, of course, Tom Slater, that's why he was born there. Incidentally, Roger Bolly, Kevin Bolly's dad, was, I think, Robbie Slater's best man, or one of them.
Okay.
There was Jean-Guy Wallem was one of his best men as well, and maybe Roger Bolly as well, Kevin's dad, at Robbie Slater's wedding. So there you go, the French connection.
Keep coming.
And one for me, this is Stato's little personal gift to me. The first NSL player of any nationality to have played in France was Ozzy Ardiles, the Argentine, who played for Paris Saint-Germain in 81-82. That I knew. I didn't know that he'd played in the NSL. One appearance for St. George in 1985. Ozzy Ardiles, the famous Argentine World Cup winner in 1978. I don't know why that
rings a bell. I think I did know that somewhere in the deep, dark recesses that he played one game. Yeah.
Exactly. Like Ian Rush. Did he play 2 games for Sydney Olympic?
That rings a bell as well.
Yeah.
I'm not good at recalling this stuff. It's always in there somewhere and I can never get it out.
The 2 Australian women have also played for Paris Saint-Germain. Lydia Williams in goal, and Claire Hunt, of course, who's now gone to Tottenham, where there was Ozzy Ardiles played as well. So there we go. Thank you, Stato, for that deep dive into the Franco-Australian footballing connections. No mention of me playing in the French Cup for my amateur village side for 3 seasons, but that's okay.
Good cause.
And that's it for us, Macca. We are done. Merci beaucoup, tout le monde. And au revoir, Valère. On behalf of MacArthur Bulls, thanks for joining us. It was fun. Enjoy the rest of your week. Don't forget, Tillies are coming up this week as well. And then a full round, we've got the Melbourne Derby, you and me, Macca. That'll be fun.
Yes, we do.
Down to Melbourne on Saturday.
Excellent.
You didn't have a game last weekend, did you?
No,
you didn't commentate.
I've been on the show, Saturday show, 2 of the last 3 weeks, and I didn't get the comms. I don't know if they're trying to tell me something, but I haven't commentated.
Yeah, bloody hell. I'd be worried if I were you.
Yeah, I know. So maybe there's been enough people on Twitter to say I'm shit. They've finally taken notice.
The weight of public opinion.
Fuck him off.
Good stuff. Macca's gone.
So many shit. Right, so much shit to do. Right, bud.
Okay. Well played, everyone. See you later. Don't forget, don't subscribe, don't vote, don't pass it on, don't fucking just listen, you fuckers. Well done. You're here. That's the important thing. See you next week.